Alright, so I just thought I'd show everybody what you get when you order Huri carburetor kits off Amazon. Before I start this video is going to be just a repair video on my Echo GT200R and the GT2000. They both need carburetors. You could have got away with a carburetor kit, but the thing is, with small engines, especially the small two-strokes, it's not really worth it to just put a kit in it anymore. Carburetors have gotten so cheap now that you might as well replace the whole carburetor. And keep in mind, I'm using a Huri carburetor, which isn't an OEM Zama, but I am selling these units, so that's no problem for me. I don't really have any problem with using aftermarket parts in this situation. First of all, I ordered one kit that consisted of a carburetor, fuel lines, spark plug, and an air filter. They give you this generic spark plug, and you can see right out of the bat, it's a Chinese plug. I probably won't be using this, so I'll probably just hold on to that. They give you an air filter here, which looks to be just like a genuine Echo, but it's slightly different. The feel of it is different. I have some more of those. We'll see how the air filter is. The one of them still needs an air filter housing for the back part of the air filter, which I have yet to acquire, so I still have to get that. I got 3 primer bulbs here, which is perfect, and I've also got a pre-built fuel line kit that includes your grommet, your prime, and your fuel pickup line, as well as your vent line. Now we'll get into the carburetors here. First, this is going to be the Walbro replacement carburetor. And they also give you 2 miniature tape measures, one for each carb that I bought, which is pretty cool. And it has the company name there. And the carburetors here, you get your gaskets, which a lot of places when you buy the carburetor, they don't even give you the gaskets. And here's the carburetor. Looks to be good quality. This replaces a Walbro C1U. And you even have your adjusting needles here, which is great to see. Now what surprised me with this next carburetor, which replaces the Zama rotary style carburetor, I believe it is a Zama K75. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head here, but here's the carburetor. And these appear to be like great quality, like really well built. See, there's no name on the bottom, no name anywhere. But what I really do like about this carburetor, where there's a plug on the normal Zama carburetors, there's actually a screw inside of there. As well as in the top here, there's another adjustment screw, which is not normally found on the Zama carburetors. They normally have a cap in here, and the top has nothing at all. So that's actually good. You can adjust these carburetors, which is something that is actually not included with the OEM carburetors. The Walbro, being as it is a little bit of an older design of carburetor, will have the adjustment screws, but the Zama here definitely not. But these look to be high quality, and we'll give them a go and we'll see how they work in the machines. So this trimmer here is the Echo GT2000. And something that I am starting to notice here is if you look at this grommet, it does look to be quite larger than the one that's found on the older Echo trimmers. So we'll see if the grommet works. If not, I have some other grommets, and we'll just take the lines out of this grommet and we'll feed them through the other grommet. This trimmer here only needs the carburetor replaced. I've rebuilt this Walbro carburetor, and it's still not working. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to replace it. To do so is very easy, and I'll guide you through the process. Before you do anything, you're going to want to detach your throttle cable. So we're just going to do that like so, and now the throttle cable is not attached to the unit. And we're going to want to remove this wing nut here. And I'm doing this on my pickup truck bed, which makes a nice little work surface here for you if it's nice outside. We'll just set that aside. That has the air filter and the housing there. And we're going to grab a Phillips head screwdriver, and we're just going to remove these 2 Phillips head screws. These are just a Phillips number 2 we have our snap-on screw gun here. We're just going to remove each of the screws here, and the carburetor will come right off of there. Now you're going to want to disconnect your fuel lines as well at this point. So if you notice here, let's move that out of the way, your top line is always going to be your primer return line, whichever line is going to the primer mechanism. So first of all, we're going to disconnect the feed line here. Alright, so you're just going to want to get a small screwdriver like this, and we're going to pop the feed line off. If your vent's working properly, which I hope this one is, no fuel should come out, and yes, it's telling me that it is. So now you're just going to want to prime whatever fuel you have left in the primer bulb back into the tank. Minimizes any mess. And we'll just pop that line off of that part of the carburetor. Just like so. Now we can set this old carburetor aside, and we'll get our new carburetor and install it. So here's our new carburetor. It's very similar to our old one. If you take a look here, they're practically identical. And we're gonna start by installing our new gaskets. You never want to reuse gaskets. If you are in a pinch, you can, but it's not recommended. So I've actually ran into a problem here with the gasket set that was sent to me. Again, you wouldn't have this problem if you had to have bought in a OEM carburetor. But the problem is, OEM carburetors, they usually don't even come with the gasket kits. So my gasket here is in good shape, and you can see that hole lines up with the hole, the pulse hole on the carburetor. Now the gasket that they gave me, in any orientation, it actually will not line up with the hole. No matter how I flip it, it's supposed to have this hole line up with that one. And they also sent me this one here, but if any way that you mount this, it is not going to fit at all. So we're just going to use the one that I already had, and we'll get this installed. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to install the carburetor. You're going to line up the gasket like so, and the air filter housing here. And we're going to take our fuel lines, and we can either connect these now or later. I'll connect these now. So they just fit on just like so. And keep in mind, if you have any air leaks in these, the engine isn't going to run correctly. So now that everything's lined up, we're just going to go ahead and screw it down tight here. Now that the carburetor is tightly mounted, we're going to install our throttle cable, which you'll see one part of the carburetor has a hole in it, which is going to accept the end of the throttle cable. So we'll just depress the throttle like this using our hand, and the throttle cable will fit right into the carburetor just like so. Now that we have the carburetor on, we're going to take our air filter housing and install that onto the machine. We'll tighten up this wing nut here, and we'll see how she runs. Alright, so we're going to prime the machine. It has fuel in it. Now, depending upon the settings of the carburetor, this may or may not run correctly, but there is your adjustment screws here, which you can adjust your high and low setting. This machine, what was wrong with it was the carburetor that was on it originally would not prime. I rebuilt the carburetor, it still wouldn't prime. I had a spare Walbro C1U lying around. I rebuilt it, it primed, ran fine for a short duration of time, and then actually stopped running altogether. I know it's not the spark plug, I know it's not the exhaust, I know that the cylinder's not squared, it has great compression, and it's definitely going to be the carburetor. So we'll give it a start here, and it should start up. Take the choke off. Awesome. There we go. There's our first machine running. Idle needs to be turned down just a slight bit. There we go, the trimmer head isn't moving quite as much. And this machine's in great shape. Didn't even need to tune the carburetor. Perfect. So this machine here is the Echo GT200R. When I received this machine, it was quite dirty. We're missing our cover here for the air filter, and our fuel line and grommet is just completely rotted out, and the machine just needs you know, a clean bill of health. It's in good shape. It was very dirty. The machine did not look anything like this when I got it. It was completely black, and it looked like it had been sitting outside for a while. But I poured a teaspoon of fuel down the carburetor venturi. I pulled the pull start and it fired and ran for a few seconds. I also took off the exhaust and I took a look inside the cylinder and noted that the cylinder was not scored, so it is worth repairing this machine. So we have our new carburetor here, and I hope that our new gaskets work. We'll see what happens. And I'm also hoping that this grommet will actually fit. I actually have a set of grommets here at the house, which I'll show you now. So here are my grommets. These are notably smaller than this one here, which I don't even think my PB250 uses a grommet that large, or even my PB200. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully this fits. This was actually recommended for the Echo GT2000, which I think they might have just messed up when they made this or sent it to me. But they got everything else right, the line orientation, the little vent there, but everything other than the grommet. So we'll see. I have a whole bunch of these grommets, so that won't be a big deal, just switching the lines over if that is the case. So I'm going to go ahead and actually take apart this carburetor here, and I'm going to start by removing the two Phillips head screws. To remove your throttle cable, what you're going to want to do is actually pull the throttle wide open, and we're going to push on the throttle plate to hold it all the way to the forward position and release the cable. So I'll demonstrate that now. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to first pull the throttle with our hand, and then we're going to hold the throttle in this position and let the cable out. And with the cable out, we're just going to pull it up like this and let the throttle out. Now the throttle cable is detached. And I just want to give you guys a apology for the camera angles, as I do not have my helper with me today. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look at this carburetor here, the new one, and you'll notice that it comes with the throttle cable adjustment. So I believe we can just pull this pipe out here, and the throttle cable will just come out just like so. We can just set that down to the side. Now we're going to take our two Phillips head screws out from the side here, and they just unscrew just like before. And you'll be able to pull that off of the carburetor. Now the carburetor here, we're just going to give it a little tug there, and the gasket stayed there, and the gaskets that they gave me are totally different. And we're just going to pull this whole thing off here, because we're going to be changing this grommet here as well. So just pull that out, and there came the fuel line with it. And yeah, this grommet is done. This is what ethanol does to rubber over time. It'll just deteriorate it, and the filter is all gummed up as well. I have a new one for it as well. So we'll see if this grommet will fit. I'm kind of doubting it, just seeing the size of the hole compared to the size of the grommet. And I've already cleaned out this fuel tank. This grommet is way too big, so we're gonna have to transfer everything over to the other grommet, and I'll be back with you in a minute. I don't believe that I need to show you guys how to transfer fuel lines from one grommet to the other, so I'll do that now. Alright guys, so I just have the fuel tank here, and another part that was wrong by Hiri was they actually sent me the wrong grommet with the lines. So I've sorted that out. I had my own grommets, which I showed you earlier, and I now have the grommet installed in the fuel lines. Now the way you want to orientate this is if you look at your carburetor here, you have two lines coming out of the carburetor. Your smaller line, which is shown here, is going to be your prime line, meaning that's the line that the primer is going to push the fuel back into the tank. Your thicker inlet here, which I say inlet, this is the outlet, this is the inlet, is going to be the line that actually is going to get connected to your fuel filter, which is going to suck the fuel from the tank into the carburetor and thus going into the engine. So now that I have the tank all cleaned up, which I didn't show you guys me taking this off, but yes, I did take it off, I'm going to mount the tank back on and I'm going to show you guys how to actually hook up your carburetor. And with the Echo GT2000, this is the 200R, the newer model, I did have to do a little bit of tuning on the carburetor, and if there is a problem with this carburetor, I'm actually not able to get to the screws here with the screwdrivers that I have at the moment. So I'll have to go out and buy an ultra small hobby screwdriver set to be able to tune this, but we'll see how it runs. I know earlier in the video I said I didn't have to tune it. I let it run for a bit, and I started having a problem where I'd give the engine full throttle and it would start to bog down, no smoke indicating a lean condition. So since then adjusted the carburetor about 1/8 of a turn out on the low side and 1/4 of a turn out on the high side, and it's now operating properly. So we'll go ahead and we'll get this carburetor installed here. I'm going to put the tank back on. I don't think you guys need to see that. It's pretty self-explanatory. And the reason why I didn't show you guys me installing the fuel lines here, Echo fuel lines are virtually the same amongst their trimmers, leaf blowers. I'm not too sure. Their chainsaws may have a different actual type of fuel tank, as the tank is usually incorporated into the casing on the chainsaw. So I'll actually add a video link in the description to another video that I've made of me changing fuel lines on a Echo PB200, and it's the exact same for this trimmer. So I'll go ahead and get the fuel tank back on, and I'll show you guys me installing the carburetor. Once again, I'm sorry about the camera angles. I do not have my camera woman here today. Alright, so we got the carburetor here. We'll put our screws through the carburetor. The gasket is still on the intake side of the engine, and we'll put our throttle cable on last. And this little line here actually sits inside this pocket here on the engine, and the grommet, it would have been nice if it was turned slightly, but that's okay. So once again, our prime line is going to be hooked up on the left hand side of the carburetor, and our intake line, our inlet, is hooked up on the right hand side. So we'll go ahead and install those lines. You don't have to install them now. You can install them once the carburetor is bolted up, but that's okay. I'll install them now. And you can already see I'm going to have to adjust the line a little bit here. So we'll do that once it's bolted up. I'll show you guys how to do that. So we'll just get our Phillips head, and we'll tighten the carburetor down onto the machine. Alright, so the carburetor is now tight, so we'll take our throttle cable, and you're going to want to note the orientation of the throttle here on the carburetor, and put it, we'll first get the line through. Flick the line up like this. If you look on the carburetor, there's a small circle on one side and the other side straight, so you want the circle facing outwards here, because that's what's going to grab the little nub on the end of the throttle cable, just like so. And we'll depress the throttle here, and now the throttle cable is set. Alright, so if you notice here, we have a kink in the fuel line, and to fix that, what you're going to want to do is take a tool like this. I made this tool years ago, but you can use a pick as well, and you're going to want to feel around for the line inside of the tank. You can see them there. And we're going to do that with this one too, because this one is also kinked, but you do not want to have kinked fuel lines. You're not going to get any fuel into the carburetor. So we'll go ahead and we'll fish out those lines, and I'll show you what I do. So just take your tool, and we'll start with this clear line here. And like I said, if you don't have one of these tools, or you can always make your own. I prefer the one that I made over a pick just because the end of this is blunt, so there's no chance of you actually tearing the line. So you're just going to want to pull on the fuel line, and you can see there it's actually straightened out and it's no longer kinked if you look there at the line. So we're going to do this for the same for the other line. You're just going to want to push that fuel filter back in there and make sure that it actually does go to the end of the tank. And the next line here is going to be this one here, which is the primer line. So we're just going to pull on that as well, and it should straighten out. Oh, this line is a little bit harder to actually get to go through the grommet. It's coming slowly, and there you go. It is now straight as well. So you can just feed those back into the tank. Alright, so I've got some fuel in the tank now, and we'll prime it. There you go. That's always good to see, is the primer bulb accepting lots of fuel. See, this carburetor is unique in design. I've never actually seen aftermarket carburetors like this. I've seen the other style, but not as close as this, and it actually has a very nice authentic feel to it too, which is interesting. Like I said, I don't have an air filter for this unit at the moment. We'll be getting one that's just a plastic cap with a center screw. So we'll see if it starts. And the choke is on, and I haven't started this. I think this has an I-30 starter in it. I can feel a bit of spring resistance to it, so we'll give it a pull. Let it idle for a little bit. Alright guys, I ended up getting this carburetor adjusted. I ended up finding the screwdriver that I needed, which is this one here. It's actually just a small hobby screwdriver, and it runs pretty good now. I just need to get the air filter housing, and I have an air filter for this. And anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video here of these two Echo grass trimmers. They both run good now. I was actually kind of surprised. You know, I picked these both up for $25. The guy gave me the Echo GT2000 as being the better of the two units, and which it was. I mean, it is older, but it's in fairly good shape, but so is this Echo GT200R, and this is a 2006 model. This one over here doesn't even have a DOM sticker at all, so I'm unsure of the year of it. But yeah, that was a good deal. $25 for both of them, and they both needed $20 each worth of work, because the carburetor kits only cost me $40. So just divide that by 2, even though this one needed fuel lines. I had grommets. Theoretically, I could have just bought fuel lines for it and just installed them, which I do have a roll of fuel line here. But I thought it'd be easier just to buy a whole kit and just get it over and done with. Even though I did still have to, you know, put the fuel lines together in a different grommet. At least now I have a larger grommet. I think Honda trimmers actually use a grommet that size. I know the Hitachi that I have has a smaller grommet, so that won't be any help to me. But anyways, thanks for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry for the camera work once again. I'm a bit rusty doing solo camera work. But anyways, we'll put these two up for sale now, and I'll just have to get the air filter housing for the 200R. And I might steal that off of my PB200R, or sorry, PB200 for the meantime, and then I'll just order one online for the PB200. Anyways, thanks for watching guys. This was another video by Pim and Pens. Take it easy. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.